In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the left front CV axle on this BMW 535i xDrive. This is going to be on the left side behind the front wheel. Let's get into it. We're going to take the wheel off, use a 17mm socket, take the lug bolts out. Before I take the last one out, I'm just going to hold the wheel on. That out and grab the wheel, slide it off. I'm going to remove the axle nut. You're going to use a 36mm socket, a 12 point, and you may notice on the nut that it's peened over a little bit. If you use a chisel or a punch, you can try to bang that out a little bit. Do the best you can with that. Take that nut off. Now we're just going to push the axle in. I'm going to use a punch and just tap it in, just so you know that it's loose from the wheel bearing or the hub. This one's rusted in there pretty good, so I'm just going to use an air chisel, just push it in a little bit. Just trying to get it to break free a little bit. That's good. We're going to remove this panel. Use an 8mm socket, take these screws out. Should be another one there. On the front that attaches to the front panel, there's Phillips head screws. Just use a Phillips head screwdriver. Just twist these about 90 degrees. Separate those. And there's a 10mm nut right here. Just use a 10mm socket. Take that off. And the panel comes down. You can pull it right out. We're going to remove this shield, use a 16mm socket. These bolts out. Grab the shield, slide it down. I'm going to remove the sway bar link from the sway bar. I'm going to use an 18mm wrench and a 15mm socket. Take the nut off. Slide that out. Set that aside. I'm going to take this nut off. Use a 22mm socket. Off. There's different front end tools you can use to separate the ball joint from the knuckle. We're just going to use a hammer and just give it a tap right on the knuckle just to separate it. Slides down. Just pull that out. Set that aside. I'm going to remove this nut. Use a 21mm socket. That off. Now you can grab this arm and just slide it down. If it is not broken free from the ball joint, you're going to need a puller or even just give it a tap right here. Just be careful, this is aluminum. You don't want to hit it too hard. Pop those both out. You can pull this out a little bit. On our vehicle, the axle's stuck in here a little bit, so we're just going to use a press or a puller and just push the axle out. Normally you should just be able to tap with a hammer, but this one's pretty rusty. Now we're just going to pull the axle out and you can push the knuckle to the side, just like that. That's good. I'm just going to take a punch from the back side of the axle and just give it a tap. Pop that out a little bit. Just grab the axle and pull it out. You can pull it past that plastic piece. You can remove that if you need to, but you don't have to. Make sure you have a drain bucket underneath. You're going to lose a little bit of fluid from the front differential. Now take the new axle, get this lined up. Past the plastic shield. And I'm just going to take a rubber mallet, just give it a couple taps. That's all the way down. Now we're going to go into the back, the knuckle, through the wheel hub. Get that lined up. Just try to twist this a little bit. Make sure that's lined up. That's good. We'll get these control arms lined up. There we go. And take the nut, get that started. I'm not going to tighten this down yet, but just at least get it started so that you know that at least the shafts come through the hub. I'll put this nut on, get that started. Then I'm going to use the pole jack, just get underneath here. Just raise it up a little bit just to put some tension on that ball joint so that we can tighten this down. Now we're going to torque this nut to 76 foot-pounds. There we go. Lower the pole jack. I'm just going to move the pole jack over below the ball joint on the rear arm. Just put a little bit of tension on that ball joint. And we'll tighten, put the nut on there. All right, put the nut on. Snug that down. I'm going to torque this nut to 59 foot-pounds. That's good. Now let's lower the pole jack. Now take the sway bar link, get that in the sway bar. Pull down on this a little bit. Put the nut on, get that started. And with the wrench, 18mm wrench, snug that down. Now torque this to 42 foot-pounds. Now tighten down the nut. Snug that first. I'm going to take 2 of the lug bolts, get those started. Take a pry bar. I just want to prevent the hub from spinning. Just put the pry bar right in between there and the ground. I'm going to torque the spindle nut to 310 foot-pounds. There you go. Take the lug bolts out. Now just take a punch or a chisel, and right where it's cut away on the axle, just going to peen these over. Just give it a tap with a hammer. I'm just going to rotate it. It's easier to punch down. Do the same on this side. Just a couple taps. That's just going to prevent the nut from loosening up. Now we're going to top off the front differential because we lost a little bit of fluid when we took the axles out. The fill plug is up here. Use a H14 or a hex 14mm. I'm just going to go around on the outside of the frame. And make sure you have a drain bucket underneath. although none of the fluid should come out. I'll pull the fill plug. There it is. Take the appropriate gear oil. You can double check your owner's manual. And we're just going to top it off. And you want just a light stream. Let that drain a little bit longer. I'm going to put the fill plug in. And I'll tighten it down. Snug that down. That's good. Now we'll just clean this up with a little brake parts cleaner. Just wash that away. Take the shield. Get it lined up. Get the bolts started. Now tighten these down. I'm going to take the shield, get it lined up. Get a couple of the Phillips head screws started in the front. Get that stud lined up. There we go, that's started. I'm going to take all the screws and get these all started. If there's more up front, tighten those down. Tighten down the Phillips head screws up front. Now we're going to install the wheel. Line the wheel up. Take the lug bolt, get that started. Snug that down. And snug those down. Now we're going to torque the lug bolts down to 90 foot-pounds in a cross pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. Go around again, double check. After finishing this installation, it's important to have an alignment done on your vehicle.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.